Imagine wanting to play with a baby when I was 14 or
So,
15.
and you had one of these post office things. Have you seen the little things that have the little shapes, the triangles and squares and circles that you put blocks into the postal box? It's a little plastic thing like this big or something
Mm-hmm.
for that. And I remember my crowning achievement was when you took one of these ring things that was like this side, and you didn't try to put it in the circle thing, you put it in the slot on top. And I thought, look at that, she's figured out how to do this. I remember that though.
Wow. I didn't realize you contributed to my education. I'm indebted.
You remember staying with them?
I remember visiting a lot. I remember
Yeah,
Sassy
she was just
and
two then.
Sassy and Pepper. Is that right? Saucy.
Saucy and Piper.
Saucy.
Yeah.
Saucy and
Yeah.
Piper. That was close.
That's right. Yeah, we probably did have both
Saucy.
of them then.
What
Yeah.
was that, dogs?
Yeah.
I always thought it was Saucy
I
with
remember
an
the name,
accent,
but I don't
with
remember
That's
the
a Charleston
probably
accent.
our accent.
I'm glad you brought all that up. I forgot.
And they used to go to the
Uh-huh.
little poodle vet and get their toenails painted
Yeah,
and little
that's
bows
right.
in their hair.
Yeah.
Poor dogs.
Well, maybe that was when, I don't know.
We visited a lot. But see, that's why when you were saying they lived in the you lived in the Crescent?
Let's see. This was in Greenville.
Yeah.
Okay,
This
that's
was in
that's the only
Greenville.
house that I really remember y'all living in. It had big white columns.
Right. Hmm. Yeah, because
And-
we only lived in the Crescent for a year.
I remember that
Well, where
other
was
house.
this? Where was
Uh,
leave her with you alone?
Y'all were, I think y'all were in Greenville, but that may have been during the time that y'all were making trips back and forth. You were probably
No,
either at
'cause we were
Seabrook.
living in Greenville and
Well, was that during the time y'all were going to Charleston for a few months and coming back?
I didn't
To
know
Greenville?
We stayed that long at a time.
Yeah,
But
yeah, y'all used to go for I think a couple of months
Well, I can't
each
believe
place.
I left her when I was keeping up with.
Oh, you were there part of the time.
Boy, why?
Yeah, you were in town part of the time, but yep.
I imagine my mom probably didn't want you to have to keep me for so terribly long.
Why? Oh.
Just in case you were getting tired of it.
Oh, she knew better than that. I couldn't have gotten away from Pop. If I wanted to.
That's funny.
So that's
We were
right. We
living
used
in
to
that
walk her
first
to
one.
take her to the 2-year-old class at church, John.
Hmm.
Just like Stephen.
So we would walk from your
Huh?
house? We would walk to that from your house?
No, I was just talking about, when we take them to their Sunday school class, we
Mhm.
used to hold their hands. In fact, we still do Stephen's to keep him from running.
It's an urge we all have.
Yeah. So
To run in church.
in fact, I remember where the class was. Is this little class on the end of the building, and we would take turns walking you to your class. Gene and I would.
You know, I can almost remember from you saying this. I can almost remember what going to somebody else's church and being around new kids
That was down
and
here in Charleston?
No, that was in Greenville.
Boy,
Yeah,
why?
that was in Greenville.
That's right. That's
Yeah, and Sorcy she probably was only a few years old then.
right.
She was still spry and frisky.
Well, the time she stayed with me was when I never had a hip operation. That's right.
Uh-huh. Now let's see, that would,
And she was 2 years old.
mm-hmm.
And we would take her back to Charlotte every Sunday. Spend the day so she could.
Yeah, well, the thing I was thinking, she had an operation a few years ago, right? Or a year or two ago?
Tammy,
Yeah, another hip operation.
it's been longer than that.
I think it's been longer than that.
Okay, because I wondered if it might not be the same side that she had then, because that's about a typical
Mhm.
lifespan
I think she
for
did
one
have
of
it
those prostheses. It
replaced
probably
again.
was the same side that she had redone after the first time.
I had a
That's right,
boyfriend
she told
who
me she got close to 20 years out of that, and they don't usually last but 10 or 15, so she did get more years than they said she would get.
I had a boyfriend that went through 4 hip operations
Really?
while we were dating.
Okay.
First thing they did was like the cartilage had filled up, so they just
Mhm.
drilled holes basically for the
Mhm.
blood, and that didn't really work. And
Yeah.
replaced one and the other,
Mm.
and then had to go back and redo one. Well, that was probably after we broke up, but he had had both of them replaced by the time. Or maybe he had a partial replacement and then a full replacement or
That was
something.
for
He
hip
just went through
dysplasia, or
gobs.
was that for hip dysplasia, or what was his main problem?
He had had cortisone,
Injections?
yeah, or an IV, because he had asthma, and he had a really, really, really serious asthma attack before I knew him,
Mhm.
and it just deteriorated the bone.
Wow.
Plus, he probably got drunk and fell down. he was
Wow.
he was such a winner.
Mm.
No, well, he probably fell down. Not just because he was drunk, but just because he had this daredevil attitude that,
Uh-huh.
he was young and it must have been really rough. I mean, he was younger than I am now. And this was when I was in high school and college.
Uh-huh.
And
Who was that, Jane?
that was Mark,
Oh, yeah.
the dark haired guy, kind of Italian looking. Well, he was Italian, I guess. But anything you told him, he couldn't do. He had